Hi everyone, welcome to the Gemini Season Workshop. I'm Jenny Fitterer and I am here to talk about everything that's happening this upcoming season. So Gemini season, I'm pretty stoked on. I have a Gemini moon, so I'm have a lot of kind of attributes that kind of light up this time of year, specifically in communication and kind of being kind of bubbly and kind of wanting to do a bunch of different things. So sometimes that can mean I can be kind of scattered all over the place, and sometimes that can feel that way in this season. But also there's just a general excitement about learning and communication that comes up this time of year. So I'm pretty excited. So I'm just going to jump right into it. As before, we're going to start with talking about some of the transits that are going to be happening this period. Just kind of get a feel for what's happening in the planetary scope, and then I'm going to do a tarot reading for the collective for this period. So just gonna jump right into it then. And again, if you notice my eyes skittering to the side, I'm just reading my notes there. So Gemini season this year is from May 20th to June 21st. These times are in Pacific Standard Time, so it might be a little bit different depending on where you are in the world. So the sun rolled into Gemini on May 20th. So that's going to be a kind of like some Gemini themes, as I was mentioning before. Gemini is an air sign. Air sign is mental, so it's all about communication, thinking, learning. And Gemini is the sign of the beginner, like the new student. So there's a lot of like fresh energy of like the beginner's mind. So this is learning at the beginning stage where you're still kind of figuring things out. You don't know everything yet. This isn't a time of mastery or an expectation to be perfect at anything. This is just that excitement of a fresh kind of new kind of world that comes with being a new student. So there's a lot of that kind of like fresh new excitement. Anything's possible in Gemini. Gemini is also ruled by Mercury, who is the planet of communication and thought, but also the trickster. So Gemini energy can have a lot of like not taking things too seriously, and including that can be like kind of like sarcasm, wit, kind of trickery, sort of bending the rules, kind of poking at people who are being really stiff or serious. Gemini's like, let's kick back a little bit, don't be so serious. So there's a lot of lightness to this particular season. So for some people who are more structured or by the rules, or like to take things that's kind of more somber or stern, this season might kind of like throw a bit of a curveball for you, and it's kind of nice to kind of get into that play mode. And for others who are already normally in that state, this may, there may be some challenges to be focused at all, because Gemini is an air sign and it's a mutable sign as well. It's really like bouncing from thing to thing, and not the best at staying power, but significantly good at like managing, juggling multiple things at once. So there might be this feeling in this season that like, oh, you want to start a task, you want to do something else, like start something new, and like not really finish with follow through. So if that's kind of coming up for you, that's pretty normal. Just to expect that. Don't beat yourself up on it too hard. So yeah, those are just some basic themes for Gemini overall. So for the planetary transits, we're starting with, I'm going to talk about Mercury a little bit. So Mercury is currently in retrograde. Started retrograde in Gemini. Mercury had moved into Gemini and started retrograde. And but the Mercury is now changing from air signs to earth signs in his retrograde. So he started his retrograde in Gemini, but now he's moving backwards into Taurus. And so he's crossing back into Taurus May 22nd. So whereas Mercury had been in Gemini, which is his home sign, one of his home signs, so where the planet of the mind is jumping on new ideas and really getting that power up in that air energy, the retrograde has any retrograde is a kind of a period of turning more inward instead of more direct action. So it's kind of, for Mercury being a planet of thought, it's all about reflection and reorientating your thoughts and kind of thinking about what it is you think about instead of just kind of moving on in autopilot. So when Mercury goes retrograde, it's kind of a time to like slow down and like be a little bit more aware and just kind of like housekeeping in your mind, and seeing what still matters to you. Mercury retrograde kind of has a bad rap for having like the trickster play tricks on you, and things kind of messing up or breaking down. And usually that doesn't have to be all the time. It's usually more if you're still trying to be on this focused, direct, outward energy, and the retrograde is kind of suggesting you pull in and be more reflective and be a little bit kind of slower with your thinking. If you just kind of take time to double check things, you tend to not get tripped up so much by those otherwise kind of Gemini flubs or Mercury retrograde flubs. So retrograde started in Gemini, and then as he moves back into Taurus, then our reflection and our retrograde kind of thinking is more going to move back into Taurus themes, which are body, health, the earth, and finances and stability and resources and the home space. So it may then be more of a time to be reflecting on your finances, how you're doing, what your security feels like. Do you feel comfortable in your home space? Do you feel like you are financially stable? Are you making choices that are and in a position that are bringing you comfort and security in your body? How are your habits to do with your body? Maybe that's a time to stop and reflect and think, okay, like, is what I'm doing being supportive for those kinds of Taurus things? And then as Mercury is retrograding in Taurus, you can kind of be thinking, planning, not necessarily taking action, just sort of thinking and taking stock and saying, yeah, okay, like maybe this needs to change, maybe I'm doing good with this. And then when Mercury goes direct, then it's more of a time to take action on those things that you may have been reflecting on. So that's May 22nd that Mercury is going back into Taurus. The next transit we have is Mars, the planet of action. So Mars is going to be entering Aries on May 24th. So Mars is currently in Pisces while I'm making this video. And Pisces, as we've talked about, is the last sign in the zodiac. And so any planet that's in Pisces is kind of like wrapping up the most recent chapter, or the last sort of big cycle that they've kind of gone through. And then starting in Aries season is a fresh new start, that first sign of the zodiac. So Mars has been in Pisces, which is kind of a tricky sign for Mars. Mars wants to have direct action, and Pisces is very kind of fluid and foggy. And so if things have been feeling with that Piscean energy that it's been kind of hard to take direct action, or you're just like really connected with everybody else's kind of actions, and it's hard to like really hone in on yourself. When Mars enters Aries, you're going to be really, really pulling back into the self. So Aries is this fire sign, and it's all about this spark of life, and it's very, very self-aware and when I say self-centered, I don't mean like necessarily to the detriment of others in a bad way, but focused on the needs of the self, focused on the desires, the ideas, the inspiration of the self. And then Mars is going to want to take action on that. So Mars is the ruler of Aries. So Mars is going to be in his home sign now, which means there's going to be like a kind of extra vroom to him, because he's got that fire energy back and is focused on his own goals. So, and on the 24th, then you're just going to get this fresh injection of like feeling like, okay, you finally got fuel, you can move forward, whatever kind of ideas or things you may have been dreaming up in Pisces season, as Pisces is all about dreams and thinking about what is impossible that maybe could become possible. Now Mars is like, let's make it possible. And it's there's going to be a lot more, just kind of energy that's going to feel easily to be used. The downsides of Mars. Mars is the planet of action, but can also be the planet of aggression. So depending on if you are getting too self-absorbed and only being conscious of your own goals, not being aware of the needs of others, and being so like emotionally connected to needing your goals to happen the way you want to happen right now, it can get very aggressive. And since Aries is already the sign of the warrior and is like going to drive straight for what they want no matter what, this is something to be aware of, is that you or other people around you, if you get like too focused on your goal and you want to jump to it, there can be that kind of aggression and blinders on and not paying attention to other people's needs and just charging to the front of the line and not really caring about other people. So ideally, we try to mitigate that. So that balance is what we're trying to have, of that healthy self-centeredness, where it's knowing that your goals and your needs and your desires are kind of the core of your being, and they're part of what directs you into what you're going to do in your life. and they're really deeply important to you, and everybody else also has those values for themselves. And so everybody is going to be trying to work on their own needs and desires, which is great, but we don't want to be like smashing other people down and subordinating them and only elevating your own desires above everybody else. You know, we should be trying to work together, get our own needs met, facilitate other people's needs being met, learn how to compromise. So that might not come as easy. Mars is and Aries is not the most compromising sign. So just try to, especially while Mercury is still in retrograde, where it's really like you want to slow down, don't jump on anything too quickly. Mars is going to want to rev in there and take action anyway, so we might feel like just like there might be a little bit of trickiness. There might be some tension at the end of May before Mercury stations direct again, and with Mars coming in, like just wanting to act on it. So just try to take a breath, try to enjoy the fire of Aries, of Mars and Aries, without being like burned by it or feeling like you have to use that fuel all right away. Aries is more like the fresh new idea, which can be really exciting, but it also doesn't have to be built and manifested all in one day. So this is about taking actions on new ideas, but understand that there's like try to be patient. It's not all going to happen all at once. So that's that's going to be Mars and Aries. That's some themes for that. And then Venus is the next planet we're going to talk about. On May 28th, Venus is going to be moving into Taurus. So Venus has been in Aries for the last little while. So we've already been getting some of that Aries energy in terms of our values and the things that we find pleasure and joy in and how we like to relate to each other. So already you may have been being more aware of what your needs are while you are relating to other people. So with Venus in Aries is this like strong Amazon warrior and very aware of her own needs and her own desires. And so she's not that compromising and she knows what she wants. And now she's going to enter Taurus season, which is an earth sign. And Taurus is, Venus is is ruler of Taurus. So she's in her home sign as well. So we're having Mars going to be in Aries in his home sign, Venus in her home sign of Taurus. So those two planets are going to like feel like they really are in their power, like they are in their zone. This is what they're good at. And so it's going to feel like a lot kind of more easeful. So Taurus is this sign of, again, earthiness, sensuality, being in the physical body. So that's enjoying all the senses, smell, taste, touch, sexuality, and really just like feeling at home in the body, and also security, again, feeling home in the body, at home in your home, at home in your life, and wanting to feel secure financially and emotionally. So Venus is pointing us to our values and what it is that we want to have to make us feel good. And so this is going to be a great time to really be thinking about your home space, and does it bring you pleasure? Does it bring you joy? And as well, our relationships. What are you feeling and how you relate to other people? Are you feeling secure? Do you feel like there is pleasure in these relationships? Do you feel like your body's needs are being met in the relationships that you're having with other people? And also, how can Venus is also, it's relational, so it's not just thinking about your needs, it's thinking about the needs of others in relationship to you. So even being able to pay attention to your friends and family and lovers and what their needs are, what their Taurus needs are, how are they doing financially, how are they doing in their body physical health, and just sort of checking in and being in relationship to those needs and sort of trying to help us all be kind of safe and secure, and enjoying living in our bodies together. So that's going to be some opportunities that Venus is going to bring in Taurus. Taurus is also, it's the sign of like good hard work, stable work, and like in a what's the word, like very my words are gone here, call this a Mercury retrograde myself, consistent. So working very, very hard, very consistent, and can also be very, very stubborn. So the sign of Taurus, the symbol is is like the ox, is the cow, the bull. And so it's this hard-working, plodding, not like speeding and rushing to get things done, but consistently working at a pace and can pull very, very heavy loads. But there's also that other image of this kind of luxuriant, kind of lazy figure, like a cow relaxing in the grass and just enjoying the sun, chewing their grass. So Taurus can be very, very hardworking, but can also kind of fall into really enjoying the pleasures of life and not being connected to the work. So, and that's not a bad thing. It's not, you can be overworked and never connected to your pleasure and only working the consistent plodding like the beast of burden picture of an ox, which is, that's too far in one direction. You also need the restful, but you can't have that all the time. So as with everything, it's about balance. The work and the pleasure is going to come together in Taurus, and so that's an opportunity for us to really kind of have work and pleasure in our home life, work and pleasure in our relationships, and that feels good and builds us up. So work can feel good and build us up if it's attached to our purpose and our goals. We find value in it, and we do it at the right amount and the right pace. And rest, of course, also rest and pleasure feels good if you do it at the right amount and it's not overindulgent. So this season is going to be all about Venus wanting to just feel good, feel secure at home in the body, and that's the opportunity for you there. Next thing to mention, Mercury is then going to station direct on June 3rd. So the retrograde will be over, Mercury will be heading straight forward again, and so that's that linear motion now. We've been having this period of reflection and trying to slow down and really think about what our values are, first in the mental aspect when Mercury was in Gemini, and then thinking of body, security, financial well-being when Mercury was in Taurus. And so when Mercury stations direct, he'll still be in Taurus before he moves forward into Gemini again. So this is, like I said before, a great time to now put into action any sort of insights you've had while you were reflecting on your body's needs, your financial needs. Now's the time to start to engage in bringing those to fruition and actually working on them instead of this time of reflection, which was the slowdown, and then we get to kind of move forward with some plans there. So Mercury will be going direct, that's June 3rd, and so that realm of communication and thought will just feel a little bit more easeful and not quite so like scattered or like reflective. So it'll just be more forward motion. And then right after Mercury goes direct on June 3rd, we then have Saturn going retrograde June 4th in Aquarius. So Saturn is one of the kind of further out planets. It's kind of in the middle of the solar system. So not like the further out Uranus, Neptune, Pluto planets, but Saturn is this middle kind of zone. So Saturn is because of that middle zone, he both works personally in our own lives as individuals, but also is working socially and with the collective energy as well. So Saturn as a planet is kind of known as the task maker. It's connected to the image of the father and father time and like the disciplinarian. So the one who sets rigid goal or rigid boundaries is not saying this is not a free ride. This is not you having fun and doing whatever you want. There are rules. There are things to do in order to get things done. Not playtime, this is work time. And so Saturn is all about boundaries, but those boundaries are what allow you to move forward in a way that if there's no boundaries, it's actually kind of hard to make any headway. So the way that anybody who wants to achieve mastery in something needs to have some discipline, needs to be putting in the work, really practicing and becoming the master of their craft. So the discipline and the boundaries of Saturn have a really strong purpose, but it's often not fun. It doesn't feel super fun. It's all about structure as well. Saturn, since it's about structure, is also thinking about like our society structures, our government structures, the things that make the rules in our day-to-day life as we go about in the world. Saturn's kind of ruling that as well. So Saturn going retrograde is, again, that reflection, reorienting, and thinking, is the way we've been doing things the way we still want to do things? And so when we're talking about Saturn retrograding, it's the structure. How is the structure that we have been living under? Is it any good? It's what we've been doing for a while, but it's time to rethink about it. Are we still getting value from these structures? Are these structures unnecessarily limiting? Are they making it only possible for some people to succeed and for others to not? And is there unfair oppression with our structures? Maybe in our day-to-day lives, it's thinking, okay, like, how are my routines? Like, what is the structures that I have for my work life? How do I choose to discipline myself or give myself strict habits? Are those working for me? Do I want to change some of my habits? Am I different now? Do I need stronger habits? Do I need to chill out a little bit and relax some of those stricter kind of restrictions. All of that is going to be things to consider. So it's both reflection on your own sense of structure, and also then reflection in more the collective and societally. So are the structures that we have that rule us something that we are supporting now? So Saturn being in Aquarius for this particular retrograde, Aquarius is is this wild electric freedom fighter, and wanting to be different and innovating and breaking free from structure a lot of the time to create the new leap, the new thing that's going to drive us all forward. It's this sort of feeling of progress in a like eureka kind of lightning bolts jump forward. So Aquarius does not like Aquarius in the mythos. Aquarius is the story of Ganymede, a water bearer who was kidnapped by Jupiter and forced to be his kind of slave, and then eventually he rebelled and escaped. So that escape, that breaking free, Aquarius does not like bondage, does not like to be in slavery, and can have a lot of anger and feeling of trauma from being put under restrictions and wanting to break out. So Saturn, the planet of structure and restriction, is going retrograde in the sign of breaking out of restriction. And so this is a potential for a lot of big shakeup, and can be really sudden and out of the blue. Aquarius is not like a predictable slow buildup. It's a, wow, I didn't see that one coming. That was out of the blue. So there may feel like structure that has been so present is suddenly breaking down or being challenged or not working, and something feels kind of catastrophic. So whether that's culturally and societally having like really unexpected changes in government, or in places that can be like coups, and people having had enough of their government structures and kind of tearing stuff down. So that can look like a really big shakeup and can look really freaky. But it's, if it is productive, that's the whole thing. If your structures are not good, breaking them down is bad. Or sorry, if your structures are not good and are not healthy, breaking those structures is a positive thing. If those structures are helpful and are supportive, then breaking them apart is not necessarily a good thing. So the action of breaking down structures and walls, it depends. That there's no innate right or wrong to it. It really depends on if it's healthy or not. So so part of this reflection stage of retrograde is really trying to think and be really critical, apply that Saturnian kind of discipline and serious nature to reflecting on those boundaries and habits and disciplines, and then say what needs to have the Aquarius kind of break free lightning bolt change, what needs to be innovated, and can we innovate for the good of everyone else? Aquarius is the sign of humanitarian aid as well. It's not just trying to break free for his own good, it's to then take care of and free other people as well. So Aquarius is very interested in the collective well-being of humanity and how to get there. So that's something to be thinking about as well in this period of reflection, is how can the structures that govern us and govern our individual lives be changed to support us and to support those around us, so that everybody collectively can rise up together and experience their ultimate good and betterment together as a unity, as a collective. So that is starting on June 4th. That's going to be going until October 23rd, again, depending, 23rd, 24th, depending where you are. So it's a good 5-month period. So it's a slower build. Saturn is a slower moving planet, so it's not necessarily day one things are going to go crazy, but it's going to be that full period. So it's a good few months to be reflecting on it, and a good few months just to be aware that things might feel really rocky, and the things that you thought you could rely on might be kind of going every which way. So just take a breath, understand that the hope is that this is shaking up the old in order to build something new that is hopefully better. And you can take deliberate choices and actions, certainly in your own life, to make sure that it is a positive change and not just being afraid of your world being shaken apart. So that's going to be Saturn retrograde. And then the last little transit here is Mercury is going to be entering back into Gemini on June 13th. So after going retrograde, crossing back into Taurus, going straight again through Taurus, entering back into Gemini, And so we'll be returning to those Gemini themes in the mind of learning, beginner's mind, new fresh ideas, and that quick-witted communication, more interested in connecting and communicating with other people and broadcasting and speaking. And this will be direct again, so this will be, again, now we're going to be taking more action and being able to be communicating directly, whereas in retrograde, we may have been thinking about the things we want to learn and thinking about the things we want to study and connect and say and share. Now, as we're direct in Gemini again, now it's going to be actually time to do it, actually time to make those connections and start that learning up and, play with those new things. So that is going to be June 13th. Mercury will be back in Gemini. And that's pretty much it for the transits. And then quick note on the new moon and full moon. New moon will be in Gemini on May 30th. And then the full moon in Sagittarius on June 14th. So if your moonies out there, then those are your dates. So those are the transits. We're going to do the tarot next, and I'll just take this moment to acknowledge that I, here living in Victoria, living on the lands of the Esquimalt and Songhees nations, the Lekwungen speaking people. So these are the indigenous landholders that have lived in this place since long before any of us, and they have rich history and roots here in the land, and I am very, very grateful to be living here and connecting to this place as well. That is something that I hold in my mind and my heart, and it is good for us settlers, any of us who are not indigenous to the land, to be aware of that, aware of our place, be respectful, and do what we can in reconciliation, and just starts with learning and listening. So that's where I'm at right now, and we're going to do some tarot for this month. So this is going to be a collective tarot reading for everybody, and seeing kind of what's coming up for Gemini season and what we can expect. So we're just going to shuffle, see what comes up. Whoop. Try not to throw my cards on the ground everywhere. And just going to keep shuffling, see what happens here. It's always the good part. Sometimes I get stressed out. I'm like, what if a card never comes? So we'll just have to be patient. Sure, it'll be a good one because of that. It's one of those things where, because this is a recording and I'm not here live with you, I'm like, I want to crack a joke. I want to talk to you, but we're just going to keep watching me shuffle and see what comes out. If ever. Nope. This is probably the longest the card has ever taken to cut. Okay. There we go. It's kind of panic there. Okay, so here's our card for the Gemini season this year. So we have the Five of Wands. So this is the way the card looks the right way up. Sorry, there's just a bit of glare on my screen here from the sun coming around. So this is the Five of Wands. So we have these wands kind of all up in every direction here. We've got a bunch of butterflies and some kind of red swirls in the foreground. Way in the background, we have this sort of a bunch of soldiers with pikes and spears there, way in the background. So lots of color going on, lots of kind of, it's not super clear, there's lots of obscuring happening there. And that's the Five of Wands. So we're going to see what is coming up. Okay, Five of Wands. Shaping your will. Wands stand for instinctive drives and initiative and represent the fire element. Five wands are the essence of the fire element, the human will. Our will is made up of our deeds and intentions, our consciously chosen actions, and our unconscious motives. As long as the fire of life burns, your will is constantly being reshaped. In the background, 7 or 8 helmets of lance bearers and 12 lances can be seen on the card. Each one of the 12 lances and of the 5 green wands represents a certain type of energy. As if participating in a huge game of pick-up sticks, it is your task to gather up this energy, to sort through it, and to focus it on something worthwhile. Different interests and tendencies are always pulling in different directions. What has first priority? How can several goals be attained at the same time? As an integral part of this process of shaping the will is for existing role models to become obsolete. The red area in the middle of the card stands for your personal fire, your power and vivacity, creating new facts that go way beyond traditional experiences, thus dismissing those redundant conceptions. Do not spread your energies too thin. Center yourself. See your current tasks as tests of your determination, your willpower, and your playfulness. Find out which aspects of your will are in harmony with your desires and so able to get something moving. Find out which acts of will are superfluous because you are still trying to force something to happen that is actually no longer relevant or has not yet become so. Practical advice. Create space in your daily routine. This might include taking some time out or establishing your own room. New alternatives are waiting to be explored and tested in your personal relationships and in your career. Go for it. Okay, so this, sorry, we're shadowed here. So this card really feels like it has a lot of the retrograde energy we were talking about, Gemini energy, and that Mars and Aries. So talking about the human will, Five of Wands, Wands are fire signs, and so Mars moving into Aries is in a fire sign, and Mars in Aries is all about your will. Aries is your personal will. Mars is taking action on it. So needing to find out what your will is and what your personal fire is wanting you to do, what are your priorities, is very much that Mars and Aries theme. So we're wanting to know what our will is, and this card saying that we need to find out what our will is and center yourself and ask yourself those questions is very much that feeling of retrograde. So, which is all about centering yourself, looking inward. What are your needs? What are your desires? What do you want to learn? What do you want to take action on? How do you want to feel? And that retrograde, that Saturn retrograde, is very much those structures. The structures that are going to be limiting your will, or your will is going to be shaping those structures. So it's really asking, what are our priorities? How are we going to reevaluate what it is that we need, and then matching it to our will in order to take action. This card often has this feeling of like, everything's happening all at once. The wands are falling everywhere. It's kind of like frantic. Things are falling down. We're trying to get things in order. So it's really trying to say there's a lot of different pulls on your time and energy, and you need to know what it is you want so that you're not just trying to pick up everything and running away and super spread out and super spread thin. So that kind of has a bit of the potential of the Gemini energy being in Gemini season, which is having so many things on the go, being really interested in this and this and this and this. And so it can be a really, really fun time, and it can be really great to, juggle a lot of different things, but you can take on too much. And so if you aren't clear on your will and what it is you want and what your values are in that way, then you're just going to be every which way juggling too many things and dropping everything instead. So there's that that downside of Gemini can be being so spread out and frantic, but the plus side is inviting in more playfulness. So as we're saying, our current tasks are sets of your determination, your willpower, which again, that Mars and Aries, and your playfulness, which is this Gemini season. It can be fun. When things are kind of collapsing and everything's crazy and it's pouring rain and the kids are crying and you can be so frustrated that things are going wrong, but there's also that moment, that time you have to switch your perspective and just kind of laugh and get wet and realize, I got caught in the rain and things aren't super great today and this is really hard, and wow, okay, can we laugh at this whole experience of being alive? It's kind of ridiculous. So there's always that invitation with Gemini, which is to see the joke in things and to see that things can be silly. And that really kind of gets us through what can otherwise feel really scattered, or with those retrogrades can feel really stressful and confusing. So yeah, this card is, finding out what it is that you really want, what your will is directing you to doing, getting those priorities straight, and then there's that invitation of creating some spaciousness in your daily routine in order to then explore new alternatives. So exploring new alternatives has a bit of that Saturn and Aquarius vibe in terms of there could be a really new unexpected path that happens that you can break out of your old structures. And Gemini is also this beginner's mind of trying something new. So if Aquarius is this electric sudden change, Gemini doesn't have to be that sudden. It can just be, I want to try this. I'm going to do something new. I'm the new beginner, and I'm really excited to just do new things. So that, when tied to that Aries will, is a very, very potent energy of actually really getting things done and not being just stuck in our patterns. But that's all needing to be grounded in Venus being in Taurus and wanting to feel safe, wanting to feel good. Taurus is about security and our values. We want to feel safe and secure. So if we've got this retrograde energy shaking things up, shaking all our structures up, and Gemini kind of bouncing around, trying new things, and Aries is wanting to get things done and act on their new insights. Venus is kind of anchoring and holding us as, remember, we want to be safe. Remember, don't get too ahead of ourselves. Remember, we still want to feel good. If we're only working ourselves to the bone and we feel really bad throughout the process, then if we don't actually make the goal and the payout, then we've actually are just kind of miserable. If the process doesn't feel good, if the process isn't sustainable, if your energies and your comfort levels throughout your process of achieving and acquiring what it is you're doing, if that doesn't feel good and sustainable, then you're just living for these fleeting moments of completion that then you've pinned all of your hopes on, that they have to feel good because you didn't feel good in the process. So we're really wanting to have that Taurus anchor, Venus and Taurus anchoring us, slowing us down, helping us feel good throughout this process while we have a lot of fire and air energy that's bouncing around instead. So that's going to be, this really nice kind of anchor. So I think I'm just going to leave it with that then. Keep it short and sweet. So that was, again, 5 of Wands for the collective, for everyone here today. And welcome to Gemini season. Right, this is a Pay What You Can workshop, of course. So the link for the Pay What You Can donation is in the comments on this video. So really appreciate any donation. Really helps me be able to keep going and bring this content to you, and keeping it accessible so that everybody can get their astrology fix and have support energetically throughout their day. So thank you so much for your generosity and support. Love you very much. And have fun in Gemini season, my friends, because that's what Gemini is all about. Bye-bye.